All right, checking in with Canto 24 and the start of Canto 25 of Orlando Furioso, where we finished the last one where the two Sarsens, Rodomonte, good, I think it's Rodomonte, and Mendicardo fight. And they're fighting over a fair lady whose name completely escapes me. It might be Isabel. I can't remember. But they're fighting and fighting and fight. But a messenger from Agramante, King Agramante, comes saying, "We need your aid. We're in terrible trouble. We need your help." So the courier doesn't actually interpose himself in front of the two fierce warriors. He knows he wouldn't get that much protection, but he gets the fair lady whose name I will slip back to. She gets her to intervene in the fight and say, "Okay, come on, you guys, stop. We need to go and protect because the king, they're encircled. They're in serious trouble." Doralice in their stead, and says that King Argramante and Stordalan and King Marsilio, with few to aid in their encampment by the Christian clan, are sorely pressed. So they stop fighting, and indeed, there's a thing here of, that the one thing that can actually kind of defeat, maybe at least for a little while, is that can defeat kind of discord and jealousy, is love. Love is not always evil, truth to tell. Though harm he does, he serves the good as well. So it's kind of a neutral force. It can be for a force for bad, and it can be a force for good. And in this case, I guess it's a force for good because it's got it. And he also does come across another of the couriers comes across Ruggiero. Um, you know, reduced, and he's asked. He also tells him about it. Reduced by his conflicting thoughts to doubt, Ruggiero pauses. Which course is the best? No time, no chance. He has to think things out. On every side, by urgent matters pressed, the lady wins. He turns his steed about to face the way she came, taking no rest. Together through the woods they gallop off. For all their haste, their speed is scarce enough. So he is searching for Bradamante. They have gotten separated yet again. I can't remember. I can't, to be honest, I can't remember the causes. I'd have to go back and look at that part of the thing. But he, on the other hand, it's love causes him to choose the lady versus going to help his men. He comes to a citadel at last in central France that King Marsilio had lately captured from King Charles, so it's in Sarsen hands now. And he comes into uh, a thing where he comes into a square which, thronged with people, was ablaze with light, and in their midst, his face an ashen gray, there stood the youth condemned to die that day. But Ruggiero sees this face, and he seems to see his Bradamante. So astonishingly like her he appears. We have this thing again of like, oh, I've seen my love, but now my love is a guy. Like, what the heck's going on? But he doesn't think about it one way or the other. He just immediately attacks the crowd. At which point we get one of these long passages where common folk just get butchered by these knights. It is one of these things where you just like, they're supposed to be the heroes, but they're just like butchering people. They're like murder, 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 murder. I think we go from 10 heads of 4 or 6 he neatly lopped, of some who were too slow to run away. His sword sliced through another 6, nor stopped until they reached, and it's graphic, until it reached their chests. I cannot say how many of to their teeth or eyes were cropped. I'll grant they wore no helmets that day, though many metal caps were to be seen, but not much use would finest steel have been. So it's like, it doesn't matter. It would have just killed them. And, one man at least went down at every blow. Sometimes a couple fell, or 5 or 4 or 5. 100 soon Ruggiero had struck low. So it's just like, whenever they come across like crowds, they just butcher crowds of people, these horrible death-dealing knights. There is this kind of constant threat in this medieval history. It's like, here's the thing: you cross a noble will butcher you and will butcher everybody around you. And I mean, it's kind of done in literary form here, but like, they had mercenary bands that they would hire to do their work for him, and just like would kill and kill. And his honor being outraged, he seeks vengeance for his injury. And this youth is able to kind of is able to is aided by gets aided by a maid, a lady the occasion used to set the young man free in every limb, and soon he stood, her eager hands being quick, girt with a sword and a shield about his neck. At which point they just continued to butcher and butcher people, his honor being outraged. And they get outside of the thing, and he's like, Rogerio is thinking to himself, I see my lady's face, her features beauty beyond compare. I see her lovely aspect and her grace. The sweetness of her voice I do not hear. So the voice is not quite right. If this is Bradamante, how can it be that she forgets my name so soon, and me? And so he kind of asks him kind of roundabout questions about, like, could you reveal your name and all that stuff? It's like, well, and he says, like, he says, like, well, you may have seen my sister when she wore full armor and a sword. We are two so alike, for we are born on the same day, that who is which our parents cannot say. So he's identical twins with Bradamante, this super amazing warrior maid. So and indeed she used to wear a braid, but she got wounded, so the braid had to get cut by a passing hermit so her head would heal. So now they look entirely exactly a lot our thing. If we our names and sex do not reveal, I Ricardetto and Bradamante she, born of the Montalbano family. So they cannot see. Now, and then we end this little section with, I could relate, if an ear you would lend, a strange event that would astonish you, about no history, to such joy at first, such torment in the end, my likeness to my sister brought to me. I could relate, if you an ear would lend, a strange event that would astonish you. And of course, Rogerio is super, super happy to hear any story that's got his love in it. So he begs him to begin. But yeah, that's that thing of, like, you're in love with this woman and you come across her exact duplicate, but it's a guy, which is, I find, again, is one of these things of, like, you're sexually attracted to, oh, it's a guy. It's not my true love. And that little moment there where you're like, oh, yearning, I just find interesting in a very masculine poem like this, or dealing with all these very masculine figures and, love between men. It gets alluded to in kind of the Greek kind of the myth stuff. We get a lot of stuff about Adonis, the shepherd boy who's taken to Olympus to be a cupbearer for a male god, and assumedly it seems like a lover seems to be what it's taken as of that god. But so yeah, again, there's this thing of, like, males who, there's a spark between, at least on one side, for Rogerio towards this fellow Ricardetto, the brother, identical twin brother of Bradamante. All right, I will leave it there. I've been going on. More videos later.